Welcome back, fall 2025 MB Poli Podcast world. It has been a very long time. We are finally back to do another pod after a summer hiatus with only one summer pod.
Yes.
We were trying to sneak in two, but there's been a lot of changes in this household. There's been a lot of activity, so we're trying to get back into the swing of things now. It is September 11th when we're recording this, and we are in Menaquist, or in St. John, on the unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq, the Maliseet, and the Pasquotomakati. It's exciting to be back.
Yeah, welcome back, everyone. And special shout out to our Rogers folks who continuously tune in. And I see you all at the grocery store, and you're very sweet about
it. Is a bizarre feeling.
Yeah, they keep playing us over and over. So
yeah, they're playing the encore editions of like MB Poly podcast from long ago. And we didn't even know that until someone said, "Oh, I saw you last week." And I was like,
my nephew said he saw me on the news, and it was actually just Rogers, and he saw us there, so it was very cute.
The Channel 10 tradition continues.
I saw you and Brett in the news. I was like, yeah.
For the news.
Yeah. So, but today, though, in our own, MB Polypod tradition,
yes,
we have some esteemed guests back.
Yes, of course.
Our dear friends Shawn, Rouse, and Teri McMackin.
Yes.
Welcome back, gang.
I'm going to bring them in.
Hello.
Hey, everyone.
Hi.
So good
Great
to be back.
Here.
We have a number of things we want to cover, but Shawn, I wanted to just kind of push on you a little bit right off the top. You've got a new initiative that you're doing around aggregating sort of the news, creating a bit of a podcast using some AI. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, please.
Sure. And you know me, I'm quite a big geek. That's what I do for a living. And I'm always messing around with technology. And one of the new AI tools that came to light for me recently, which I thought was really neat, was it's one called a Notebook LM from Google. And the whole idea is it builds a language model around a set of notes that you give it. So if you get this big, say, 200-page document from the government and you want to digest it really fast, you can throw it in Notebook LM. You can ask it to give you the top 10, just like you can with any chat GPT window or other language model. Just give you the highlights, break it down, give you a summary. But the cool thing that Notebook LM also does is an audio overview. So it actually generates a podcast of a discussion around the sources that you give it. So I thought this was really neat, and I started to, what if I just do like a weekly, can I get it to do like a weekly breakdown of the news? Not like a real discussion of personal preferences or points of view, but just really a rehashing of what the news for the week was by just bringing in all those articles and then processing them. Back in the 90s, people used to say, "Oh, I hate computers. I never going to use
the letter.
I don't do computers." And then in the early 2000s, it's like, "Oh, I hate the internet. I don't do the internet." And that's sort of how I don't do AI sounds to me now, or I hate AI. It's going to be ubiquitous before we know it. It's going to be used for all sorts of things that we will like and we will not like, but it's just going to happen.
Yeah. Okay, so New Brunswick politics. It's been a while since we've had a new government. There's been a bunch of things happen. We're in the heat of a global realignment away from globalization and neoliberalism toward back to mercantilism and tariff wars and an entire once in a lifetime fourth term liberal government since Mackenzie Lion King. Like, there's a lot going on, and we haven't really had the time to digest all of it, because every time we turn around, there is some new story coming out of the US, out of the United States, out of Donald Trump's office. So I thought, it's hard to escape that gravity. We've just seen a massive influencer, Charlie Kirk, assassinated live in front of his family, in front of thousands of people and students. And so it's one of these things where I would love to have a bit of a roundtable about your initial thoughts around that, because like it or hate it, as the US goes, the planet will go. They just have a ton of gravity economically, they have a ton of gravity culturally, they have a ton of gravity on so many fronts. So they're kind of like, at this point in time, a sun that may be burning out, sure, and there's other competing spheres of influence, of course, that are occurring. But yeah, I don't know who wants to hit that first, but we've just seen a pretty massive moment south of the border. There's no shortage of uh, work that is happening here in Canada in reaction to what's coming out of the US. So yeah, what are folks' thoughts? How might this impact Canada, New Brunswick, the world? Um, Hot takes, any of that? I don't know if anybody wants to jump on that, if anybody's thought about that, but I did think it'd be important for us to try to grab some of that and talk about it.
Do you want to go first, or?
I'm
That's
gonna
so
go off
heavy.
what you say. You can start, Shawn. I'll let you start.
Okay. Well, I'm going to actually quote a transgender friend of mine, Kylie Stewart. She made a really good post on Facebook about this. And, people probably know Charlie Kirk was no fan of trans rights. He was quite a foe of them, actually. So, so here she's trying to process what happened, thinking, here's a guy who is very opposed to her as a person. And, but, well, anyways, I'll just read what she said. To those who say Charlie Kirk was a father, yes, he was. He was a father who said he would force his daughter to give birth to a rapist baby during a debate on abortion. Was he a good person? No. Did he deserve to die? No. Just as many children in America don't deserve to die to guns and live in fear because Republicans like Charlie Kirk are pro-guns. Both of these things could be true at the same time. As a trans woman, I watched this man do nothing but relentlessly attack my community and spread lies about us on the basis of his faith in politics. He has a right to his opinions like everyone, but there's a difference between holding opinions and building a platform on social media that monetizes off of marginalized communities and advocating for restricting the human rights of Black people, trans people, women's rights, and immigrants. Violence begets violence. I just thought that was so well put. Now, here's someone who is personally impacted by some of these very volatile and combustible opinions of Charlie Kirk, for sure. This is someone who has made millions of dollars, literally, and built a social media platform, a job off of this mega Republican sort of not only just the rights that they espouse, but this whole ideology that he has been, which is right of our right in Canada. I would say that's a fair statement. So, no one's happy about this, of course. And, he's being credited as leader of a movement in the States of, they're saying a lot of the Gen Z success that Trump had was attributable to Charlie Kirk and his movement. And it's possible that's true. So I think we have to say, of course, you shouldn't be killed for your political opinions, and violence in politics is never okay. I think Brandon, Joanna, you both experienced harassment from some of the political decisions you made this past summer. Same thing, right? That's not okay. That said, Charlie Kirk should not be lionized as someone who is anodyne, for lack of a better way of putting it. He made money from espousing very combustible, divisive politics, and they hurt some people. Some people liked them, a lot of people didn't. So I think that's just the truth.
I think what's really interesting right now is that we live in a time where we can watch people process this information, right? Because when something tragic happens, there's a million things that go through your head, and then maybe that's not your final feeling on the issue. Because I can say for myself, like,
It's a good point.
Did I like him? Not at all. I have very strong feelings about what he did and how he encouraged a movement that directly hurt and even killed people. Like
Yeah.
his rhetoric, caused people to think, hey, I don't want to be on this planet anymore, and actually go through with that decision. And then on the other hand, do I think he should have died or been killed? No, I don't. And part of that is selfish because it sets a precedent, right?
Yeah.
That people that I agree with and people that I don't agree with are targets for this. So I feel like my first reaction wasn't my sincere reaction. My first reaction was, I guess, thoughts and prayers, kind of thing. That was my first reaction. And then as I'm digesting this, again, still don't like the guy, but I'm learning of the implications that are just more widespread, right? That of course Trump is going to use this as some kind of platform, and then of course we're going to see more violence. We are going to see more violence on both sides. I mean, we all know, anyone who follows politics at all, we all know it's coming. We all know it's not going to get better right now, but it's like this is kind of that trigger point, I think. And I don't know, it's scary. And I think when this stuff happens, I found myself kind of going back to like my community. I'm like, what can I do here today in my house to make the world a little bit brighter? And I think that's something that's the bigger conversation is we are so polarized right now, but do we know our neighbors? Like, are we looking at that person who celebrated his death or who is mourning his death and instantly saying, I don't want to be around that person anymore, which I find people are doing. I've seen people, if you're mourning the death of a person, get off my friends list. Like you're seeing that stuff. And I'm like, whoa, this is having a different effect than I thought it would, but I guess it all kind of makes sense in the end.
It makes far too much deep sense, actually, in terms of like how we conversate online and react to things. And like that knee-jerk reaction you're talking about, Teri, I think is so critical and so pertinent to the age of rage, I guess we've been calling it.
That's a good book.
A friend of mine who, a person we've known for a very long time, has gone down sort of this, like what they would call the red pill pathway. And so he bought this book, like Politics in the Age of Rage, that very much focuses on how we've become this like very polarized camp-based society online, and it has led to that being acted out in public. And so with this now, like I saw Ben Shapiro just canceled all of his tour, right? Like these guys are going to realize like this is not just online, it's real life, like
life or death now.
And it is, it actually
and
is.
people
Their
with things
words do
that
matter.
exactly, well, and people who have things that need to be said are now questioning. It's like, am I risking my life? Like I'm even thinking for me as like an activist, I'm very outspoken about the things that I care about. But if this stuff was happening here, it's like I have young children. And it's not that I'm a coward, and it's not that I don't think these things are important, but suddenly the picture is bigger, right? And you really have more considerations to make, and it silences everyone, not just, the right that I would love if they would just crawl under a rock someday and, and not be loud about it. But at the same time, it's like that applies to, my side of the spectrum as well. It doesn't help anybody.
No.
I think there's two takeaways for me in this. I mean, you mentioned it. I was thinking it. I kind of said when I got home and I heard about it, I'm like, well, this is the kickoff of the Civil War, and then you referenced the assassination of Franz Ferdinand that kicked off World War I, right? You things are at a boiling point, things are really tense, and then all of a sudden, an influential person who has the respect and attention of millions of people
for years and years. Archduke,
like he was assassinated. It was linked to a group, and all of a sudden, everything blew up. And that was before the age of instant communication and transmission of information. Like that took weeks and weeks to reach certain places, but the impact was nuclear in how it interacted with the landscape politically. And the outcome of that was hundreds of thousands and millions of deaths. And so you kind of see it's like, well, I don't think I don't think we've evolved that much since,
100 years ago.
since 1911, 12, and those times when that's possible. I think it's quite possible now when people decide that their community or their state or their way of life is now under attack. It's just like, well, who have I got to fight? And that question becomes easily answered when there's a clear camp that you're supposed to be pitted against or could be pitted against. But I also agree. It's just like we've both been pretty substantial activists, and in trying to bring some of that activism into a political sphere and on a number of different fronts. But over the past 3 months, before Charlie Kirk, we've both arrived at the place where it's like we're done with politics right now. So neither of us intend to run again, and I think this just confirms that decision.
Yeah.
Because it's like, look, y'all have a bunch of issues, and everybody thinks these issues are going to be worked out by some new influential movement, strong person, group, and they're not. And I heard this quote literally the same day I heard that Charlie was shot that day. And it was like this guy was saying the admission to a difficult conversation is emotional intelligence. So we want to work out really disparate, difficult issues of differences of opinion, of differences of policy and politics or whatever. The admission to that, to doing it well, is having people at the table who are emotionally intelligent. They're not going to railroad people. They're not going to demonize and vilify people. They're going to listen. They're going to respond. They're going to disagree with a level of respect and cordiality that I just don't think exists anymore in the majority of folks. And so,
Well, and that's actually, sorry, you finish.
No, please.
No, I'm pretty
I
much
was just
done.
gonna
Go
say
ahead.
that's actually a topic of conversation at the Union Municipalities Conference. Is they want to talk about remaining optimistic or whatever. And I won't say her name in case she doesn't want to be included, but me and another woman there were like, this is great, take care of our mental health or whatever, but we're just so damn tired of being resilient.
Yeah.
Give us some actual tools. And I remember making the suggestion, I'm like, can we have someone that just looks at all the councils and say, turn off the comments on your posts, just turn them off. That is such an easy thing to do. It would, people are lazy, yeah, they want to say the thing, they want to say it right then and there. If they don't have an opportunity to say it right then and there, a couple of them might email you, a couple of them might call you, but leaving those comments to fester and to just show who in your community might be thinking a certain way, nobody's winning. And I know this is just a little thing, turn off the comments, but I'm like, if I hear one more thing about taking care of your mental health and eating your greens to combat all of the crap that's happening in the world, I'm like, I'm going to lose it. But as somebody who is generally optimistic and somebody who wants to be in these spaces and doing good work, I'm finding myself balancing. It's like, do I really want to go there, or do I just want to be a hockey mom, representing my Petticoat Salisbury Flyers, right? Can I just go to the rink without questioning, if this neighbor thinks awful things about a community that I care about? It's becoming a lot. But you're right, we need that emotional intelligence, and I cannot recommend the book Too Dumb for Democracy enough, because we are too dumb for democracy.
Yeah, the contentiousness. I'll go back to you, Shawn, because I know we've been saying a lot, but I just think that things are so contentious, and people they have unlimited access to a wide audience of folks and an unlimited platform that can, one articulate,
and an addiction to reactions.
Which the algorithm rewards.
The constant commenting therapy, they call it CCT, right? Constant commenting therapy. People just get their therapeutic resolve from constantly commenting on Reddit, on Facebook, and they don't have a leg to stand on in community. And it's like, until we get back to a place where, and this is the other thing I thought too, is just like, in this day and age, which is so vastly different than 2021, because to be frank, I was considering a run here in St. John for mayor. I've been considering it for about a year and a half. And I had a coach lined up that was working on me with governance stuff. And I just looked at the situations that have occurred in the last 3 months, and I was like, it's not that I don't think I can hang and run a good and potentially win. It's that I can't champion the ideas that people want championed, that people want to see come to the surface to get action. It's like, I don't agree with almost anybody on either side. It's, it's just like the opinions that folks have about what needs to be done, I just don't have agreement. So it's like, how can I lead that? I can't. It's not for me. It's just like, time to walk away from it, go do other stuff. There's work to do, but it is a problem. Like, I don't know how you get level-headed, competent, engaged people to show up and run for office in this kind of climate. And
They're
I think
too
that
sane to even consider it.
absolutely
That's what I
they are.
think.
100%. I mean, it's, yeah, some of these jobs pay well, but they're thankless jobs. They're 24/7 jobs, and there's private sector equivalents that are a lot more attractive to people. I'm sorry to hear, honestly, that both you aren't running, because I think you guys bring a lot of heart on your sleeve advocacy to your council positions, and I don't think that's easy to replace. But again, I understand why. It's a
Yeah.
toxic environment for politicians out there right now, and
Yeah.
people. I mean, there's this whole idea, this post-truth era everyone keeps talking about. Like, it doesn't matter almost if you watch CNN and you see what comes out of the White House, for example. A lot of it is not true at all, and they
Absolutely.
don't care. They don't care that it's not true. So in that kind of environment, if there's no truth, I'm going to make you uncomfortable and say, let's take Laurenville for an example.
It won't make me uncomfortable.
Well, I mean, let's Joanna exits stage left.
We're very different people.
No, but what's their idea? Not touch it? I mean,
no, go ahead.
Everyone's
I
trying their
appreciate this.
best to be accommodating in an area that's ideal for the purpose of what's it's been determined for and zoned for by council. And everyone has tried their very best to be accommodating, to accommodate setbacks and old growth forests and on and on.
Wetlands,
And it's still not good enough for, there's nothing that has appeased anybody that
None.
is in the other camp. So
Yeah.
where do you go from there? I mean, again,
I think that was
if there's
a
no
canary in the
middle
coal mine.
ground, there's no middle ground, there's no truth as to what's the common good for St. John. Where do you go? What do you do?
But there's also on that topic though, like, I mean, like, I'm not from St. John, so like that issue isn't close to me, like what you're saying, but I was listening to an episode, and they were talking about, Danielle Smith or whatever, the book banning, or like bike lane. They were talking about everything. And they were saying, here's a good example being the bike lanes, is that you have people and all of the developers, all of the people who know everything about that topic are like, it's good for downtown. It brings more to your business. But this one guy is saying he's a spokesperson for the businesses, and they're like, no, I'm getting less foot traffic, whatever. And the reporters aren't even bothering to be like, who is this guy? What kind of business he has? Turns out he's a realtor. He doesn't even have a freaking storefront. But because they're giving equal weight to just anybody who is opposite of whatever conversation that you're having, giving equal weight without having a standard of credibility, education, position in the community, whatever, just anybody. And with the book bans, it's like, who are all of these parents? Are they parents? Are they grandparents? Do they even have kids in school? And you're giving them attention. And I'm all for, everybody having a voice, but some voices are just more qualified. Like, do not ask me about which type of roof you should put on your house. Ask Brent. Like, I don't know. But why would you give me equal time if you're asking both of us for our opinion when there's clearly someone who is an expert?
And this is a big thing right here. It's just because somebody.
That's a difficult thing to say to people.
Yeah, it is. Like,
Yeah.
what am I supposed to say to folks? You don't deserve an opinion at this table because you're not qualified to provide one. No, you can't say that. That's callous and that's, bullying or whatever. Okay, so then it's like, well, your opinion isn't as valuable to me as this other person. It's like, well, okay, we're a little closer, but it doesn't matter because people don't have an open mind about this, right?
Well, they have no respect for expertise.
Yeah,
There's no respect for expertise.
I think
Yeah,
the
that's-
loss of like respect for experts happened probably like 8 to 10 years ago, where
I don't know. I feel like as long as we've been alive, I don't know, like personally, since I was a child, being a smart person in this region, in this Atlantic Canada, was never a bonus. It was always like
nerd.
You nerd, like you're just like, sucking up to the teacher. Like it was never an award feel like it wasn't until university that I felt like good for being smart.
Yeah,
if you know what I mean.
But it's absolutely true. Like
but if you're dealing with the general public, and of course, like I get it. I was somebody you didn't like when you were a kid across many ages.
Yeah.
Like not just my own age group. Like
in my yearbook, I was the most likely to get voted off the island.
I made my
Survivor was the biggest thing. In my yearbook, it says Brent Harris, most likely to get voted off the island. That was my award because people just didn't want to hang with me. I had tons of friends, but when it came to like issues in class or discussions, I was belligerent as and I still am belligerent in many ways. I've tried to rein it in and provide a level of listening instead of just speaking. But
no, you just surround yourself with people who can take it. Like I live for this conversation. My regular group of friends are just like, I'm like, I'm on a Poli podcast. And they're like, you're on a what? I'm like, you guys should listen to it. And they're like, probably not.
Never.
Which is okay.
No,
which is okay.
Nerds.
My family doesn't listen to this. They'll never hear me.
My husband, I don't think.
Never.
I appreciate you guys.
No, I love that about us for sure. But
anyway,
Shawn, yes.
Not to be hopeless and full of despair, but Shawn, go ahead.
To button up what you're saying, I think people have to approach it with good faith. And if there's no good faith, same with policy 713. We talked, me as a parent of a trans child had a completely different, I know, but I had many people who don't have kids in school, who don't live here, who had an opinion about this. And it's like, you don't have a trans child. You don't have kids in a school here. You don't live in New Brunswick. Why are you? It's like, go away. You don't. Your opinion matters less than mine in this case because I have a child that's directly impacted. And they're not approaching it in good faith. To begin with, if no one wants to come to a consensus at all, they just want to advocate for what they believe, then you're not going to ever get anywhere. So, and it's going to end up people just butting heads.
Well, so okay, on that beautiful note, because 713 Higgs, I was talking to you about this the other day.
Yeah.
We don't have an evil demon anymore.
I know.
To be like, why are you so
she moved to Alberta.
I know, like, everything's all like 15's gone.
But even Danielle Smith has pulled around on some things and become more sensible.
But my question though is like, what's the big three for our 2025 finale? Because we've had so many falls, you guys, like all of us together, like Shawn doing Love is Louder like 2 years ago together. All of our Higgs campaigns. Actually, our Love is Louder sign is still outside. We live in a very, quote unquote bad area of town.
Oh yeah.
And no one has ever taken that sign.
Nope. Love is Louder is still out front. It's been there since you sent them out, and no one's ever taken it.
Easily take it.
And
no
they've
one ever
taken
has.
my bike helmet. They've taken my bottles. They've taken my garbage. They've taken stuff out of the car. They've taken my raspberries off our bushes.
Yes.
Like they've taken everything else. Love is Louder is right there front.
So
that's great. I mean, I think most people are live and let live. And then you get I think there is a bad faith effort. And I think Hogan and Higgs were guilty of a bad faith effort to inflame many issues related to these kind of sensitive social issues to to try and gin up support. And that's what we're seeing with Daniel Smith. That's what we see with the Trump Republicans. We saw it with Pierre Poilievre, who ended up losing his own seat over it, which I loved. That was great. So, I mean, people, I think, are people going to get the message that divisive politics, people are sick of it, and that's why folks are starting to come back or back away from it and say, maybe, you know, people aren't buying this anymore. People are used to it, or they're seeing through it, or they want something different. I don't know.
That's the hope.
We don't have, we really don't seem to have those like big critical issues.
But can you imagine, this is a thought experiment, and I want to hear a little bit from everybody. We're way off script with what we were going to talk about with New Brunswick issues, but I do feel like this is a more pertinent issue than anything I could think to talk about today. Let's imagine everything that has happened up until today happened leading into the election last year. Do we really think Susan would have won if there was this level of inflamed rhetoric around homelessness coming out of Barrie, Ontario, coming out of BC, coming out of Alberta, coming out of here to St. John? If there was this inflamed rhetoric around, you know, Charlie Kirk's death, like, I think that election was a bit of a godsend in timing, because I think Higgs would have been back on the up and up in this problem. Based on what I'm seeing, we don't have a demon any longer, and nobody hates Susan Holt to the extent, of course, or, you know, anywhere near what there was some serious, you know, elbows up for Blaine Higgs. But if this had fast forwarded a year, I think the ground would have been very different, because I do see a lot of people who are leaving the reasonable, we need more reasonability in politics crowd, and starting to creep over into the, we need action, we need this done, we need to clean up our communities and our streets. We need
Yesterday.
Like they're just, it's crazy how quick the shift has been. But I don't know what, maybe I'm seeing, again, we all have these little echo chambers that we see into. So maybe I'm seeing something you're not, but I don't know.
I mean, I think it's hard to take where we are today and then put it back a year. I mean, Blaine was the most unpopular premier in Canada. He had his own caucus was trying to get rid of him. His cabinet ministers walked away from him. He had nobody would campaign for him. No, he wasn't raising money. So I think, you know, Susan definitely was fortunate to be running against the most unpopular premier in Canada, and you know, who ended up losing his own riding, and not by a few votes either. So I think, you know, Susan is, you know, Susan's now premier. We still call her Susan. Premier Holt is still, you know, we all feel like we know her.
Here. I just have this on the.
Yeah, she is riding at 52% approval rating. So
exactly.
it is still high. I just wonder for how long, because I'm seeing a bit of a shift. But
it won't stay. It will go down, because that's just part of governing. I mean, once you have to make real tough choices, this is, and I've talked about this before with you guys, how sometimes I get frustrated with David Kuhn, who's just sort of says whatever and never has to worry about being in the legislature as the premier and having to actually deliver on what he says. And you guys rightly criticize sometimes the Liberals were wishy-washy with what they say, but that's the reason. They know whatever they say, they might have to come. And of course, when they don't come through on it, it's on the front page. Oh, a promise is broken. You know, the Conservatives sent out a fundraising email the same day, talking about the failed Liberal government and asking you to donate and join the party. And, you know, there's consequences if you're not a good government. And I think Susan's government is going to have a hard time. It's got big problems, and there's no easy answers, or they'd already be done. So, and people aren't going to be happy. And there's still there was a fundraising email that came out a few weeks ago from the finance critic just hammering them on the deficit. And here we are, deficit spending. It was right after they announced the deficit's going to be a little bit bigger than, I say a little bit, 100 million. So not a little, a lot bigger than they thought it was going to be, what they said a few months earlier. But do we want the social services or not? Do we, people were crying out for schools and hospitals and doctors and nurses. And do we want those services? They cost money, and we don't bring in enough in taxes to cover it, and we don't get enough from Ottawa to cover it. So what are you going to do? This is the problem of governing this. And I'm just saying, no one's going to be happy. There's always going to be somebody unhappy. And the challenge of the government is to just do their best with the feedback they get from us.
I guess I just have never seen people this unhappy. And maybe I'm crazy. And I mean, of course, my dad always loves to tell me, he's like, Joanna, like there was massive world wars, like get over yourself. But ultimately, in the 5 years that I've at least been here, and the other previous, 15 to 20 where I paid attention, it just feels like the fact that I can't go to a grocery store or a park or anywhere basically at this point in St. John without having a really pointed conversation about something, whether my baby's there, my kid's there, whatever. That has never happened until now. And I have like a lot of feelings about that because, ultimately I've always welcomed like exciting conversations. Like, let's talk about things in the comment section. Let's have a podcast. Let's, do all these things to engage with folks. But now it just feels like you're the problem. Politicians are wrong. And there is certainly no appetite for anybody. And I agree with this. I 100% agree with this. There's no appetite to be like, oh, poor politicians. Oh, let's sob and cry about the politicians. Like I 100%, that is a dumb thing to even consider. But it is like this sort of rules of engagement that I think have been lost in all of this. That
it does happen every time an election starts to come around. It happened to last council. I remember running for council and people being like, can't wait to get rid of all these people. They don't even know how to color between the lines. This kind of rhetoric that you see on social. But yeah, like the issue set is so different now. The type of people that are kind of rising to the surface are so different now.
I think this post-truth world is what I think is new. And used to be, you had to be, if you wanted to oppose something, you had to have a point of view that you could back up. And if you couldn't back it up, you were crucified in the media. If you just said something off the cuff and it was complete BS, you would get called out and made to look dumb, made to look incompetent, and shamed by the public for deceiving them. That doesn't exist anymore. That's the major change I've seen recently. And then that just opens the door to all sorts of bad faith behavior.
Where's cancel culture when you actually need it? Where is it when it could actually be helpful? When someone says something completely untrue or unfounded, like I've been, obviously listening to a lot of podcasts and following a lot of things, and I'm so disappointed in the state of our journalism lately. It's like I'm listening to these interviews and I know the questions I would ask, the follow-up questions, and they're not asking those questions. And I am not a journalist. I'm not trained in that, but I'm like, who is training these people? Because clearly that was a lie. Ask them about it.
Exactly.
It drives me nuts.
We've often said that about like civic politics in any city, even in Halifax, let's say, like who is going, well, that councillor made that decision then, and like that's different from there.
Why are you a hypocrite, sir?
Yeah, like following the timelines where if you look at old newspapers, they were absolutely
litigious. They litigious.
Yeah.
Well, Councillor so-and-so voted in favor of this 13 years ago, but now here they are.
But now average people have to do that work. And who other than me and Shawn have time to do that work?
Right? Total nerds who like this just for the sake of liking it. They don't exist.
AI could become handy because that can search a bajillion PDFs to say who voted for what and when and where.
A reporter used to get paid to do that and keep people honest. Now the newsrooms are empty. So it's a really different.
I don't know how we're going to get through that, to be honest. I mean, people are just going to have to decide to turn it off at some point in time. But I mean,
what do you do? Where do you go?
I do hope podcasts like this enter into the fray and get some credibility from folks. And we do hear that. I guess if you're out there and you're like, well, geez, I don't like this. I don't like this direction. What do I do about it? Support people, stick with them, hang with them, check in on them. It's just like, if you know somebody's got good intentions and they all of a sudden made a different decision than you think they should have because you went on Facebook and you saw a bunch of people, railroading them, check in on them. Ask them, be curious. Don't just take the comment section and be like, how could you? Because that's what seemed like, to your point, where's cancel culture when you need it? In some ways, cancel culture is it is proliferated, right? People are willing to drop
all or nothing. There's no nuance. Like long form, like you're talking about podcasts. Like the reason I listen to podcasts so often is because there's actual conversation. I might go into this topic thinking, this is how I feel about this topic. And by the end of it, I've heard the back and forth, and then I can better formulate my own opinion and my own thoughts. And my mind has been changed on a million different issues.
Same. It's true.
Like I will even say, after listening to Danielle Smith talk for an entire hour
on the Hurly Burly podcast,
I was like, she's not an evil witch. She's only just like one evil witch.
Yeah,
but you also need to give.
She's way smarter than I thought she was.
Faint praise.
But you need to give credit where it's due.
Yeah, she's not like, she came from a place. I don't agree with that place where she came from, but I know where it was from.
Yeah,
and she made way more sense to me after that.
Yeah.
I feel like we need to be talking to people who we don't agree with and giving them credit when there's things that they're, doing well. And perfect example is, so my MLA is Tammy Scott Wallace, and she's a conservative, and I talk to her often. I'm like, oh, here's this issue, can you help me with this? And she's pointed me in the direction of resources. And recently, and I sent her a thank you email, I was trying to help this person get into MB housing. I'm like, there's a unit down here. Like, I know you're not on the ground. I know this is here. I know this person's moving. Like, can you help me? And I just got notified yesterday that this person got that unit. And so I jump in, I send an email to Tammy, and I'm just like, hey, I'm willing to bet that whatever you did, whatever buttons you pushed, whoever you talked to, helped move this along. Thank you for that. You made a huge difference in this person's life. Am I a conservative? No, but that was a good thing. And I think we should celebrate that. And I feel like people are scared to do that in case someone calls, but like someone's like, oh, you like Tammy, so now you're a conservative? Well, no. don't call me a liberal either, like not even agree. Call me like socialist or like really, really far left. Like I have no one to represent me. But besides that, right? It's like you give someone a compliment and it's just, or you question something, or I say, Polyev's doing this. Oh, you're liberal. It's like, but I'm not. Why are you assuming that when I'm criticizing someone that I'm automatic support of whatever the opposite of that is? There's no room for that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Say no to camps.
Yeah, that's the big takeaway. Say no to camps. Say yes to the person in front of you. Look them in the eye. Sit down with them. Get off the comment section. I mean, I just keep thinking like there's no hope for us unless we delete social media. Maybe we'll evolve the capacity to digest information with grace at rapid pace. I don't know. But it doesn't seem like it right now. But I do think there is something to that where it's like grace is lost when you're willing to demonize another person. And I've also heard that too.
We've been demonizing though. Like I've demonized people.
Yeah. Okay.
Literally just
with
like 2 minutes ago.
With an invitation. So I do think it's fair to vehemently disagree with people and to call them out, speak truth to power, with the invitation of you're welcome here anytime to come defend yourself, to come talk. We will give you a platform. As a matter of fact, we have had people on the podcast that we disagree with. Well, I sat down with Dominic Cardy and talked with him for an hour, and I didn't spew and spout and go off.
Which he thought you were going to do.
He definitely thought that. I didn't. And because I wouldn't want that done to me. And I think that's just a general good rule to follow. It's like, if you wouldn't want it done, you don't do it to somebody else, even if you think they're a piece of. But we're really close to limit here on time. So in light of this, this is really good. I would love for us to wrap up with what are we hoping for? What are we looking for? What are we worried about?
This is like the therapy episode.
Could be any three. This is definitely a bit of a therapy episode. It's very good.
It is, yeah. How did this happen? You didn't plan this.
No, not at all. But this is why I love this format, because it's like we don't come in with a hard script. It's really like, where are people?
So how do we heal, Brad? How do we heal?
I don't know, but what are we looking for in 2025 as we head into 2026? Is it, and it can be community specific, it can be, your region, it can be your own personal, advocacy. But what's on the docket right now? And maybe we'll go to you first, Shawn, if that's okay. What are you looking for in 2025, heading into 2026 in New Brunswick politics to get, straightened out, improved, talked about? The floor is yours.
Oh, okay. And I've said this before on the podcast. I think it's still true. All of the problems that we had under Blaine Higgs, that we complained about, that he was rated so low by the public in polling about, still exist. And they are terrible, hard problems that have no obvious answer, except spending large sums of money. And sometimes even that doesn't work. For example, 39% of the beds in Horizon Healthcare in all of our hospitals are taken up by patients who can be discharged to a nursing home if a nursing home existed, if there were people to staff them. Wow. And they can't. So they're bed blockers, so to speak, but they're people who need care who can't get that care. So good luck, Susan, solving that problem. I mean, this is the kind of, these are tough problems that people of goodwill, people are going to work hard. We have a bureaucracy that we pay a lot of money to do their best to solve these problems. Trade is a big problem, obviously, with the pressure coming up from the States. We've had our worst wildfire season, so climate change is another huge problem. And there is, people are backing away from climate commitments that may or may not have helped. I think, people just have to do their best. And meanwhile, we're spending money that we don't have. We're in deficit right now. So we have NB Power has a $5 billion debt, and they need to refurbish, a hydroelectric dam. That's going to cost I've heard like $3 billion. I've heard $10 billion. That's a huge problem. So these are really hard, thorny problems. And I think just tried to knit this together. We have to approach them. These are good people who are doing their best, working in good faith for the most part. And there needs to be, a conversation, and there needs to be fairness. There's no perfect answer. So, and it's not just their job, it's your job too. People are happy to sit back and criticize the government and do nothing to help the problem. That frustrates me. I think people need to take some accountability if they want to complain.
Very good.
Teri?
I mean, I'm thinking big, and one thing I would just really, really like to see is that the last election would be the last one under our current electoral system. Like, I will preach and talk about electoral reform for the rest of my life or until it happens, because seeing all of this polarization, it's not going to work out. If we end up being a two-party system, it's only going to get worse. And I know I've sent the premier several emails and always forwarding articles from Fair Vote or whatever. And I'm like, you have an opportunity to make the biggest change, be the first, female premier, which is exciting, and make this change that there will never be a majority government ever again.
Never
You
again.
know, we need like, well, in your nice little notes there, Shawn, it was talking about how the People's Alliance dissolved. I don't
Yeah,
like
Yeah.
them. I will never vote for them, but I think they should exist,
I
right?
know.
And I think really they dissolved because they realized everything they were fighting for was just taken up by the conservatives anyway. So I don't know, maybe they need a new
Absolutely.
platform,
It's what they wish
it's
the Greens
scary.
would do.
Yeah.
Yes.
right? Like I want to see some real change, because without that systemic change, I feel like a lot of the work that some of us are doing, you know, Brent, what you are doing in, you know, housing, and what I'm doing in my community, I'm sure whatever you're doing, Shawn, like that work matters, but we're working against a system that is set up in a way that it doesn't really matter what we do if this is the way we're going politically, right?
Yeah.
Like we can't
Creates
keep
that
having
race
this
to the bottom.
polarization. Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to keep sending my biweekly emails and forwarding my fair vote stuff to Susan and be like, hey, you said this stuff mattered to you. You said you want, you know, everyone to have their voice heard. Here's exactly what you're going to do. And I always say, when are you going to do it? I don't say, are you going to do it? I say when, because I make that assumption that if she's as smart as I think she is, you know, that she's realizing, you know, right now she's got like a solid liberal majority. That's going to go to a conservative solid liberal majority in the next couple cycles. That's just how we roll.
And see, that's like a good, you know, council is that like you don't have that. You have to get everybody on a certain wavelength, whether the majority, minority, whatever leader. There is beauty to that, because every issue is its own issue. It's not, you know, a party issue. And we've been saying that forever.
Mhm.
But this is why we're retiring, because the broken record
Oh, yeah.
is just broken. And we'll continue to comment, obviously, here on the podcast, but ultimately, like the May 2026 deadline is real, and I think it's earned. And there is, you know, more to come. Like there's lots of people who do this, you know, 10, 20 years in the future, right? So the fact that we did it in our 30s, I feel is like, and Teri, you did it in your 30s. Like deserves, like people don't do this in their 30s.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
Like,
Yeah.
are you selling Girl
Yeah.
Guide cookies, you know, when I come to their door? It's like, no, I'm a politician.
Yeah, pay for your vote, baby.
Exactly.
I know, exactly. So like I don't think there's anything wrong with, you know, taking a break from this.
No.
But it doesn't mean we're not going to be engaged. And like I would love if we can all keep this up with you two, of course.
What are you looking for
Oh,
from
okay.
the New Brunswick government? Because this is a good one. We've got healthcare. Let's get the nursing homes figured out. Let's get the fair vote piece figured out. Let's get the electoral form, because God Almighty, can anybody believe that we are still working from a Victorian era political styled system in 2025? We have changed every other asset and piece of our society, and we still have this anvil dragging us underwater, and we're wondering why things aren't working.
I recently learned that the NB Police Act is 44 years old. And I think that is one that needs to be looked at, considering the era that we are in. So right now they're dealing with like federal regulations that exist over top of them, and then this like current reality that exists in the provincial way. And they find it very difficult to, I guess, police in a modern way. And it's one of these things I didn't know about until recently, when we started having this conversation over drugs and mental health and everything else, where I think that we need to actually be the province to modernize policing in a way that is going to support communities through these mental health and addiction and, you know, public health crises.
Yeah.
Because that to me is like the biggest thing on everyone's mind, and why everyone's operating from this place of fear constantly. And the boiling point is what it is right now is because of that. So sorting out that in a province as small as this feels attainable. Not sure if that's at all on their docket, but I think it is in multiple other areas, then would drill down to that. Obviously, we all want health reform. That's been something we've been talking about forever.
Yeah.
But I didn't know this piece about the police till recently.
Yeah,
So.
it's a good point. I mean, when you say that, all I can hear is as Grampy David Kuhn in my head being like, the problem with liberals and conservatives is that they don't know how or seem to don't want to legislate. And I think that's it, because the Electricities Act is also 70 years old. Like the Labor Act was also written in 1972. Like nobody wants to open these pieces of legislation. And it's only because of two reasons. Either A, they think it's too hard, not worth it. And that's just a failure of to me, that's just a failure of courage to be like, well, can we build something here in 6 months to bring this up to a place that's sensible? Okay, we're done, move on, let the next government try. But the fact that they keep trying to update these acts that are inordinately out of date, but they don't have either the mental capacity, they don't have the bureaucracy, they don't have the courage. It's something. Don't get me wrong, opening up an entire act is a 2-year commitment, but it can happen in a slow kind of burn and be brought into an actual, motion or piece of legislation, over a government's lifetime.
St. John Energy is the same example.
St. John Energies are operating under a 70-year-old Electricities Act, which they can't work within. So, good one, very good one. Can our legislators please just legislate? Stop trying to win the next election and just legislate. And if you lose, you lose. But like, you can at least hold your head high and say, I tried to open up this thing that was dumb and out of date and not important or not, up, to the current standard. But I failed. And, I feel like I can say that on council issues where I've brought issues. Mine is going to be a little more personal, more close to home.
Okay. Finish this up.
I'll finish this off with this. Can we please stop making nonprofits the bank of the government? So this is the one thing I'm looking for. It is the lowest hanging fruit on about 4 topics, and it goes to how we interact with our civil society. So a lot of people don't realize this. It's if you are a nonprofit, and that could be somebody like Elizabeth Fry, that could be somebody in the criminal justice system, that could be somebody like us,
or food bank
in Vacant to Vibrant, working on housing. That could be somebody who's working on seniors' homes, but they're not government, they're a nonprofit, sort of working adjacent. So this theory of social dumping came out of the Margaret Thatcher era, where there was a real force to like get out of the business of providing social services and ask the civil society to do it, but don't give them the money to actually achieve it. So that's where the social dumping thing came from. The problem we have in New Brunswick and a lot of places is that we are willing to say to initiatives, programs, or nonprofits that are trying to do something, yeah, we'll give you $200,000 or $50,000, but you can only have 20 now. We'll reimburse you for the other 60 when you've spent it. So you now need to go figure out how to fund your initiative for the tune of $40,000 or $50,000. And you're asking nonprofits to do that while they're doing other stuff. It's not a thing. If you believe in someone's initiative, fund them, give them the money, and if they blow it and go to Mexico, blacklist them. But it's never happened, and it probably never will happen. Sure, mismanagement happens, but you're never going to get these outcomes that you're asking for when you're turning, because so many people just don't apply. And it's a big thing in the housing problem, but it's across the board, where even groups like the Regional Development Corporation, they will not give you any money up front, even though they may have committed a substantial amount of money to you. They're going to ask you to go and spend that money and come back with receipts. And it's like, so you're asking us to go find bridge financing from a bank that doesn't give two crap about us or you, and you think they're going to give us the money to do good work? Hilarious. It's just not going to happen. So that's my low-hanging fruit. If we could fix that, we don't even need to open an act to do that. You can just rewrite the programs we have. Well, this is we're at a very
definitely it's the therapy episode. I will say thank you both so much.
Like that.
I'm gonna sleep good tonight.
I know. I've been able to talk about this stuff with anybody else.
This is great.
Want to talk like this.
Thank you both.
Oh, this is
seriously.
good. Yeah, nice
Yeah.
to talk to you
No,
guys.
we'll be back on the panel again.
We
soon.
might get you back sooner than you think. Either way, thank you both for being with us, and hey, welcome to season whatever it is for
78.
the MB Poli podcast. We're not sure, but check out Shawn's new abridged version of the New Brunswick News, because I think that is a terrific effort that you're doing there,
Indeed.
Shawn. And
Thanks.
I definitely enjoyed seeing that. You were the one to tell me about it today. I went and looked it up, and I thought, no, this is very,
Very
great
exciting.
stuff. So thank you.
All right. Love you guys. Mwah.
Thank you. All right. Thanks, guys. All right.
Bye.
Bye.